My father froze halfway through carving the Thanksgiving turkey when he saw my son walk up, holding a handmade card in both hands. He smiled until he realized the card wasn't from my niece Tessa, but from Logan. Dad took it, glanced once, and let it fall to the floor like trash. Then he looked straight at my 7-year-old boy and said a sentence so cruel it made the entire table go silent. I opened my mouth to defend my child, but my daughter, Mia, stood up first, and what she said next changed our family forever. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from, and how old are you? I read every single one. Now, let's get into the story. The drive from Baltimore to Fairfax should have been peaceful, but it never was for me. The sky was a dull November gray, and the windshield wipers brushed rhythmically, as if keeping time with my heartbeat. Mia hummed quietly in the back seat, glancing at her little brother every few seconds to keep him calm, while Logan pressed his nose to the window, repeating the same question he always asked on family holidays: "Do you think Grandpa will like my surprise?" With the kind of hope only a 7-year-old could still carry. When we pulled into my parents' neighborhood, the air seemed to thicken. Their house looked exactly the same as when Ethan was alive: white shutters, tidy hedges, and a front porch crowded with seasonal decorations, but something inside it had changed years ago. Something I never found the courage to name out loud. Inside, the warmth smelled like sage butter and cinnamon candles, and everyone was already in performance mode. Angela and her daughter, Tessa, had arrived early, with Tessa twirling in the living room, recording TikToks in front of the fall centerpiece. My mother, Donna, beamed at her like she was the star of a holiday commercial, while my father, Frank, stood nearby, carving the turkey a little too loudly, clearly annoyed the moment we walked in. Logan clutched the gift bag. He decorated himself, the corners uneven and glitter stuck to his sleeves, peeking inside every few seconds to make sure the card hadn't magically disappeared. Mia squeezed his shoulder, whispering something I couldn't hear, but whatever it was made him smile. Dinner was forced cheer from the start. Everyone talked over each other, bragging about Tessa's school awards and her travel soccer team, snapping photos of her carving a tiny piece of turkey with a knife she definitely didn't know how to use. Logan sat at the end of the table, legs swinging under his chair, just waiting for someone to notice him. When dessert plates were finally cleared, the kids were allowed to hand out their Thanksgiving cards. Tessa went first, as always. She handed my parents a glossy store-bought card with a gift card tucked inside, and the room erupted in applause, phone flashes, and exaggerated "oh my goodness, sweetie" energy. Then Logan stood up. He smoothed his shirt, his small fingers trembling, and walked toward my father, holding his handmade card construction paper. Fall leaves drawn in marker, his handwriting crooked but full of love. My father took it, looked at it for a single second, and let it fall to the floor. Logan blinked, confused, then frightened. My father's voice sliced through the room. "Kids who don't even know who their real father is shouldn't call me Grandpa." Room went dead. Forks froze. Angela grabbed her phone. Donna's smile cracked, but she said nothing. And just as I pushed my chair back, a sharp scrape shattered the silence. Me, standing up so fast, her chair nearly toppled. She marched to Logan, picked up the fallen card, then turned to my father with her chin held high. "If Logan isn't your grandson," she said, voice steady and fierce, "then I'm not your granddaughter either. I look even more like Dad than he does." No one breathed. I felt something inside me shift, like a door finally closing after years of being held open by guilt. That was the moment everything changed. 4 years earlier, the night Ethan died, the world went silent in a way I can still hear if I close my eyes. It was late past 10 p.m. and I was folding laundry on the couch when the knock came. 2 state troopers stood on my porch under the yellow glow of the porch light, hats in their hands, rain dripping from their jackets. I remember gripping the doorknob so hard my fingers ached for days. Mia peeked from behind the hallway. Logan perched on my hip, too little to understand why Mommy suddenly couldn't breathe. One trooper spoke gently, as if volume alone could save me from the truth. The accident, the highway. The other driver, instant. Nothing they could do. My knees hit the floor before the words finished. For a long time after that night, everything felt like walking underwater slow. Heavy. Unreal. The life insurance payout arrived 2 weeks later, nearly $900,000. Ethan had always been careful and responsible. The kind of man who planned for storms before they appeared. I knew exactly what he wanted the money to do give Mia and Logan. A future where they wouldn't have to fight for every inch the way we had. I planned to use part of it for a small house in Baltimore to start college funds and to build an emergency cushion. Nothing extravagant. Safe. But grief doesn't give you time to think before people start pulling at you. At the repast after Ethan's funeral, while casseroles cooled on the counter and people whispered condolences they didn't know how to mean. My mother Donna cornered me by the sink. She touched my arm with a softness that felt rehearsed. Ethan always put family first, she murmured. I'm sure he'd want to make sure we're all okay now. Behind her, my father Frank stood with his arms crossed, nodding as if the matter was already settled. I was numb, exhausted, desperate to avoid conflict, so I just nodded too. The first request sounded harmless. The storm had damaged their roof again. The deductible was high, and they were so strapped this month. I wrote a check without thinking. Angela called a week later. Her car's transmission had failed, and she couldn't get to work. I transferred money instantly because saying no felt like betraying Ethan's memory. And then it just continued. Little by little, small asks turned into monthly expectations. A bill here, a loan there, help with Tessa's soccer fees, then her school trip, then her tutoring. My parents never demanded outright. They wrapped every request in guilt and scripture and the memory of Ethan. Twisting grief into obligation, each time I hesitated, Donna would sigh dramatically. We're family, Claire. We took care of you. Your whole life, Ethan would want you to honor us. Frank rarely spoke, but the disapproval in his eyes did the talking. I told myself that helping them would ease the loneliness, that giving wouldn't take anything away from my children. But it did. It took my sleep. It took my peace. It took the space I needed to heal. Months passed, then years. I became a mother, a nurse, a widow, and a silent provider to 2 households. I worked extra shifts at the hospital, drank cheap coffee at 2 a.m., and kept spreadsheets on sticky notes stuffed into my purse. Mia wanted to join the art club one semester, and I told her we had to wait until next fall. Logan wanted new cleats, but I delayed until the next paycheck. Meanwhile, Donna posted photos of Tessa at theme parks, accompanied by captions like, "Grandparents make dreams come true." No one ever mentioned that the money was disappearing from my account each month. One spring afternoon at a family barbecue, as I brought a tray of lemonade outside, I heard Angela talking to a cousin. Claire kept Ethan's whole payout to herself, nearly $1 million. Didn't give a dime to help Mom and Dad. Grief changed her. She's colder now. I stopped in the doorway, the tray nearly slipping from my hands. Cold. I'd paid their mortgage twice that year. I'd covered Tessa's camp fees. I'd put off replacing my own worn-out tires so I could send Donna the extra she needed, and still, I was cold. I remember driving home that night, the kids asleep in the back seat, the dashboard lights reflecting off my tears. I whispered to myself, in the dark car, "You're feeding 2 houses. They still call you selfish?" That was the moment a tiny crack formed inside me, a crack that would someday become a fault line. For a long time, my life split itself into 2 versions, the one everyone could see and the one only my bank statements knew. On the outside, I was the reliable daughter who showed up for holidays, brought salads to church potlucks, and kept the peace even when the air felt poisonous. But underneath, in the quiet click of my keyboard at midnight, I was the person holding my parents' world from collapsing one automatic transfer at a time. Started small. A one-time payment too. Help with their mortgage after a storm. Then another. And another. Eventually, the one time turned into the first of every month. I set up autopay from my checking to theirs, labeling everything with harmless names like utilities or household. No one questioned it. No one thanked me either. And I told no one, not Angela, not Donna, not Frank, not even my closest friends. Meanwhile, my own life grew tighter. Rent in Baltimore wasn't cheap. Daycare, school supplies, doctor visits, oil changes, they stacked up faster than I could keep track. I worked extra shifts at the hospital, dragging myself home at dawn with aching legs and the metallic taste of exhaustion in my mouth. Some nights, I'd sit in the parking lot for a full 5 minutes before walking inside, just to gather enough strength to pretend nothing was wrong. Once, when Logan wanted to join a little league soccer team, I stalled for 2 months, telling him registration was complete. When, really? I couldn't justify the $50 fee until the next paycheck. Another time, Mia brought home a flyer about an art club. She circled the doodled paintbrushes in pink marker, eyes shining. "Mom, can I try it this year?" I swallowed hard and told her, "Maybe next semester, sweetheart?" Watching her face fall was more complex than any 12-hour shift. The house in Fairfax always looked beautiful on Thanksgiving. But that year, the beauty felt artificial, like a glossy photo covering a cracked frame. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of sage butter and the kind of politeness that hides sharper things underneath. I had promised myself on the drive over that nothing would ruin the day that I'd smile. Stay calm and keep the peace for Mia and Logan. But promises break easily. When they're built on years of pressure, after Mia's words cut through the dining room and froze every adult at the table, something inside me rose slowly at first, then all at once. The kind of growing that feels like breath returning after you've been underwater too long. Logan was shaking. His lower lip trembled, his eyes wide and confused, searching my face for safety. I pushed my chair back, the legs scraping against the hardwood with a sound that made even Donna flinch. I walked to my children, crouched down, and picked up Logan's hand. "Dad," I said, my voice steady even though my pulse hammered, "you owe him an apology." Frank's jaw tightened. He needs to hear the truth. We've all wondered. Stop. My voice cracked like ice. But he didn't. Shouldn't call me Grandpa when none of us know where he really comes from. I felt the room tilt. Angela looked at her plate. Tessa stared at her phone. Donna didn't defend my children. Not one word. "Mia," I whispered, "take Logan to get their coats." But Mia didn't move. She said, "He needs to apologize." For a moment, my 10-year-old was the bravest person in the room. Donna finally spoke. Her tone soft, yet laced with blame. "Claire, sweetie, if you had just shared more, been more open about the insurance money, maybe none of this tension would be here." "Tension?" I said. "You think this is about money?" "Well," she said, glancing at Angela, "you did keep nearly $1 million to yourself. We've been trying to hold this family together while I, what? Step forward. While I raised 2 kids alone, worked double shifts, paid your mortgage, paid your bills, paid for everything you asked without ever telling anyone." The room went still. Angela's eyes darted up. Donna's mouth fell open. Frank scoffed like I'd told the funniest joke in the world. "You paid our mortgage?" he said. "Don't be ridiculous." I didn't argue. I didn't try to prove anything. Some people don't deserve explanations. I just said, "We're done here." I grabbed Logan's coat, helped him slip his trembling arms through the sleeves, then took Mia's hand. Her chin was still raised, proud and furious, just like Ethan used to look when he defended someone he loved. "Claire," Donna said sharply, "don't. You walk out that door with those kids. You're overreacting. Sit down and talk like an adult." I turned toward her, the weight of every year, every transfer, every insult settling into clarity. "I am talking like an adult," I said, "and I'm telling you, You will never speak to my children like that again." Frank muttered, "Fine, go. But don't expect this family to welcome you back when you're done playing the victim." Mia let out a sharp breath. "We're not victims," she said. "We're just done letting you hurt us." I opened the front door. Cold November air swept in, crisp and honest. Behind us, no one followed. No one called my name. No one cared enough to try. We walked to the car in silence, Logan clinging to my coat, Mia gripping her drawing like a shield. I buckled them in, started the engine, and backed out of the driveway without once checking the rearview mirror. The farther we drove, the lighter the air felt. By the time we crossed back into Maryland, the kids were quiet, exhausted, small, but safe. When we finally pulled into our garage, the door closing behind us sounded like the final curtain dropping on a play I'd never wanted to be part of. Inside, Logan fell asleep almost instantly, glitter still stuck to his eyelashes. Mia crawled onto my bed, curled into a ball, and whispered, "I'm not sorry for what I said." "I know," I told her. "You were right." Later, when both kids were asleep, I sat on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinets. The silence in our house felt different, cleaner. For the first time in years, I let myself think the unthinkable. What if I stopped? What if I finally chose us? I took a deep breath, opened my laptop, and pulled up my banking app. Each auto-pay transfer stared back like a bruise. Mortgage gives. Steez Angela gives. Disable utilities. Gives disabled miscellaneous. Gives disable one tap at a time. The chains loosened. When I closed the laptop, my hands were still shaking, but not from fear. From relief? Tonight, I thought, I'd choose my children. And myself. Yet every time my parents or Angela called with a financial emergency, the guilt hit before the anger could. Donna's voice held a familiar tremble whenever she needed money. "Frank's knee medication is so expensive, Claire. We don't know how we'll manage this month." Or Angela's texts are coming in rapid fire. "Tessa can't miss this school trip. Be the only kid not going. You know, Mom and Dad can't help. Please." And each time my fingers moved on their own, transferring money while I stared at the total in my account, shrinking like melting ice. I told myself this was love. This was loyalty. This was what Ethan would have wanted. But deep down, something darker simmered, resentment mixed with shame. Shame that I kept saying yes. Shame that I couldn't say no. It's a shame that my children were the ones who sacrificed while others lived comfortably off my silence. The lies piled up subtly. The way dust collects in corners until you realize the whole room is coated. At church gatherings, Donna would wrap an arm around me and tell her friends with a pitying smile, "Claire's been struggling since Ethan passed. She doesn't have much left." Meanwhile, Tessa showed up with new cleats, new jackets, and new matching luggage for her soccer tournaments. Donna even posted a picture of Tessa at a ski resort last winter with the caption, "Grandparents make magic happen." Magic, apparently, is paid for by me. But the breaking point came quietly, the way most essential moments do. One night after a double shift, I stopped by the grocery store for essentials: milk, eggs, bread. At the checkout, my card declined. I tried again. Declined. The cashier, a teenager with braces, looked at me with uncomfortable sympathy. My face burned. I took the milk out of the bag, embarrassed beyond words, and paid for the eggs and bread with crumpled bills dug from the bottom of my purse. When I finally got to the car, I checked my account. 3 separate withdrawals had hit that morning: my parents' mortgage auto-pay, Angela's emergency dentist bill for Tessa, and a transfer Donna had requested the night before for overdue utilities. It was too much. All at once. And there was nothing left. I sat there in the driver's seat with the eggs beside me and the steering wheel cold under my hands. For the first time since Ethan died, I let myself feel anger instead of guilt. Not explosive anger. Steady, painful warmth, like a small flame finally catching after years of waiting. I whispered into the dim car, "I can't keep doing this." The words felt foreign, dangerous. True, that was the night my quiet rebellion began, not by cutting them off immediately, but by imagining for the first time what my life might look like if I did. The morning after Thanksgiving, my phone lit up before the sun even rose. At first, I thought it was work calling me in for an extra shift. But when I saw Donna's name flashing across the screen, I let it ring until it stopped. A minute later, a notification popped up. Donna Miller posted a new update. My stomach tightened. I opened Facebook, and there it was, public. Of course, her long paragraph wrapped in false sorrow and polished victimhood. She'd posted 2 photos, one of Ethan smiling in a family picture and one of Logan at age 3. Beneath them was a caption that made my breath leave my chest in one harsh exhale. Please pray for our family. We have carried doubts for years. But after last night, we fear our daughter may have chosen money over honesty. Little Logan looks nothing like our beloved Ethan. We are heartbroken and asking for strength. Within minutes, comments poured in: neighbors, church ladies, old co-workers of hers, even acquaintances who barely knew us. I always wondered, she should take a DNA test. Poor Ethan's parents. Those kids deserve the truth. I scrolled and scrolled until my vision blurred. My phone buzzed nonstop. Screenshots from friends, texts from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Even Mia's art teacher checking in with a cautious, "Everything okay at home?" The worst part wasn't the lies, it was how eagerly people believed them. Logan sat at the kitchen table eating cereal, humming to himself, unaware of the poison spreading online with his name attached. Mia walked in wearing her pajama pants, saw my face, and froze. "Mom," she whispered, "what did Grandma do?" I closed the laptop, but I wasn't fast enough. Mia had seen the screen, the photo comparison, and the comments speculating about her and her brother, as if they were characters in a mystery show instead of real children. She climbed into my lap, trembling with anger, not fear. "They're trying to erase Daddy," she said. "They're trying to erase us." I held her as tightly as I could, but it didn't stop the ache building in my chest by afternoon. The gossip had spread beyond Facebook. Someone from church texted me a screenshot of a group chat where Angela had written, "We just want answers. Claire refuses to be transparent." Transparent, I had paid their bills for years. I had carried their shame, their debts, their judgments. I had done everything silently. And still, they wanted more blood. That night, after putting Logan to bed and lingering in his doorway because I couldn't bring myself to leave, I opened my laptop again. The house was quiet, too quiet. Too quiet, the kind of quiet that lets intrusive thoughts echo louder. I typed Baltimore DNA testing chain of custody into the search bar. I didn't want a pharmacy kit or a cheap mail-in swab. I wanted something official. Something irrefutable. Something that could end this story before it swallowed my children whole. The next morning, I drove Mia and Logan to a small clinic tucked between a pharmacy and a dentist's office. The waiting room smelled like disinfectant and dusty magazines. Mia sat stiffly, her chin lifted with forced confidence. Logan swung his legs and asked if the cotton swab would taste like candy. "Just hold still," the technician said gently as she swabbed their cheeks. Then she handed me a stack of paperwork, including signatures, chain of custody forms, ID verification, and processing fees. I signed everything, hands steady, even though my heart felt like it was trying to break through my ribs. When we walked out, Mia slipped her hand into mine. "Mom," she said, "after this, will they stop?" I didn't lie to her. "Maybe not," I said, "but they won't get to say whatever they want anymore." That night, after the kids fell asleep in my bed, again Logan curled against my side. Mia with her arm draped protectively over him, Mai sat in the dark living room with only the glow of my laptop. My notifications were still going wild. Donna's post had over 200 comments. Angela was heartbroken. Someone suggested calling CPS. Someone else tagged my workplace. But for the first time, I wasn't spiraling. I was planning. Quietly, carefully, methodically, I bookmarked the DNA lab portal. I set an alert to notify me when the results were ready, and I whispered to myself, this ends soon. And it ends with the truth. 9 days felt like 9 years. Every morning, I checked the DNA portal before my coffee even finished brewing. Every night, I refreshed it until my vision blurred. The online noise hadn't quieted anything. It grew louder. Donna's post continued to gain shares. Angela had updated her status with something dramatic like, "Sometimes the truth hurts, but lies hurt more." Someone from the church sent me a message that said, "Just know we're praying for the children." It wasn't comforting. It felt like a funeral for our dignity. On the 5th day, Mia came home with a pink slip from the school counselor. She had gotten into a shouting match with 2 girls who asked whether Logan really belonged in the family. Mia refused to apologize. I refused to make her. That night, as she ate mac and cheese at the kitchen counter, she said, "Mom, it's okay if they're mean to me, but they can't talk about Logan." I stroked her hair, wishing I could shield her from everything. On the 9th morning, at 6:14 a.m., an email notification appeared. "Your DNA results are ready." I sat at the kitchen table, hands shaking as if the truth itself were too heavy to hold. The house was silent, both kids still asleep. I entered the portal, typed my password, and opened the first PDF. And there it was. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Ethan was Mia's father. Ethan was Logan's father. No gray area, no space for rumors, no oxygen left for lies. I didn't cry. I just breathed, slow and deep-like. I'd been underwater for 4 years and finally surfaced. I printed the reports, blacked out only the case numbers to keep the kids' information private, and pulled up 8 old photos of Ethan at different ages: baby, toddler, 6, 10, high school, 20s. The same dimple, the same cowlick, the same hazel eyes as my children. Proof so clear it was almost insulting to have to show it. Then I wrote a post, short, sharp, unapologetic. To anyone questioning my children's identity or my husband's memory, here are the official paternity results from a licensed, accredited lab. Here are photos of Ethan at the same ages. My children are his. They always have been. The only thing they inherited from certain relatives is the ability to recognize cruelty disguised as concern. We are done explaining ourselves. I hit post and set my phone down. The reaction was immediate. Within minutes, "Oh my God, she needs an apology now. This is disgusting. How could you accuse your own grandkids? What kind of mother posts lies like that about her daughter?" People began tagging Donna, Angela, and Frank under every comment. Women from the church who had prayed for my misguided soul now turned their sympathy toward Mia and Logan. Someone with too much energy even wrote paragraphs dissecting the facial similarities between Ethan and the kids, comparing cheekbones and jawlines like forensic analysts. By noon, Donna's original post had been flooded with over 100 comments telling her to take it down. A few women unsubscribed from her Bible study group. One parent from Tessa's soccer team commented, "This is shameful." Another wrote, "Apologize to your daughter." By late afternoon, the church moderator removed Donna's post and sent her a private reprimand for targeted harassment. Angela disabled comments on her page. After someone posted the DNA report under her photo of Tessa's award ceremony, but I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. Vindication wasn't victory, was exhaustion. Mia saw the new post while sitting beside me on the couch. She read quietly, eyes scanning each line. Then she leaned her head on my shoulder. "So now they know," she said. "Yes," I replied. "Good," she whispered. "Maybe now they'll stop pretending we're not real." That night, for the first time since the chaos began, both kids slept peacefully. Logan even laughed in his sleep. I sat in the living room with the lights off. Thinking about the shift, I felt inside meal like the last thread tying me to that. Part of the family had finally snapped, not with a shout, not with a fight, but with the weight of undeniable truth. And truth, absolute truth, doesn't whisper. It roars. 3 days after posting the DNA results, I received a phone call from a California number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in my chest tugged. When I picked up, a rough, warm voice filled the line. "Claire, it's Richard, Donna's brother. Uncle Richard, the one who'd moved to Santa Barbara 30 years ago, built a taco stand into a restaurant chain, and whose name my parents only spoke with bitterness. He didn't waste time. I've been watching everything unfold," he said. "Every post, every comment, every ugly lie. I left New Jersey for a reason. But this crosses every line." I stayed quiet. "You don't have to say anything," he continued. "Just listen. I met with my estate attorney this week. Spent 4 hours rewriting my will. Signed the final documents yesterday with 2 witnesses and a notary. It's all official." He paused so the weight could settle. "My net worth is $24 million, liquid. No spouse, no children. And everyone assumed Donna, Frank, and Angela would inherit it all." My breath hitched. "Not anymore," Richard said. "Effective immediately. Everything goes to you, Mia. And Logan, you are the sole beneficiaries. If anything happens to me tomorrow, it all goes into a trust with you as trustee." I pressed my palm to my chest, stunned, trying to speak. "Don't thank me yet," he said. "There's more. I opened to 529 college plans this morning, 1.5 million each, already funded. The kids can go anywhere they want. Grad school, med school, anything." A notification appeared on my phone, screenshots from him. Trust documents stamped and notarized. Confirmation emails for both college accounts. He had done all of it without telling anyone, without asking for anything, without hesitation then. I heard a soft ping. He had sent something to the family group chat that still existed like a ghost on my phone. Article 5. Disinheritance. I intentionally make no provision for my sister Donna Miller, her husband Frank Miller, or her daughter Angela Miller, for reasons personally known to them. Underneath, he'd typed, "This is what happens when you try to erase my great-niece and great-nephew." The group chat detonated instantly, voicemails, accusations, threats of legal action. Angela typed in all caps about undue influence. Frank demanded that the will be contested. Donna sent a long voice note calling her own brother a traitor. Richard only laughed. "Let them scream," he said. "They earned this." Then his voice softened. "I'm moving back east, kiddo. Already sold the flagship location. Buying a place near you. Those 2 little ones deserve an uncle who shows up. And frankly, I'm tired of beautiful sunsets. I want family." Tears blurred my vision. "I don't know how to thank you," I whispered. "Raise those kids with love," he said. "That's all the thanks I need." He hung up, leaving me standing in the kitchen. The quiet suddenly warm instead of heavy. Months passed and everything transformed. Donna and Frank lost their Fairfax house to foreclosure after missing 6 mortgage payments I had been covering for years. The property was sold at county auction, leaving them with nothing but a rented apartment above a payday loan shop. Angela had her accounting license suspended for conduct unbecoming. And after losing her job, she ended up working nights at a convenience store on Route 50. Their online profiles went silent. The lies that once fed them had eaten them whole. Meanwhile, our life blossomed. Richard bought the house next door to us on the main line, a 6-bedroom, colonial with a pool and a maple tree perfect for climbing. He turned the basement into a game room for the kids and stocked the kitchen with ingredients for the carnitas he made better than anyone. Mia called him Uncle Rich. Logan called him Poppy. Richard pretended he hated the nickname, but we all knew he cherished it. On Sundays, we cooked big family dinners, laughing, arguing, telling stories about Ethan so the kids would never forget the sound of his name. At night, Richard read them the same books Ethan used to love. My house became a home again, not a battleground sometimes. When driving past Fairfax for appointments, I found myself slowing near my parents' old street. But I never stopped. I didn't owe ghosts my time. One crisp autumn afternoon, Mia and Logan sat on the porch steps carving pumpkins while Richard swept leaves from the driveway. I leaned on the doorframe, watching the people who truly loved my children, who protected them, who chose them, who chose us. For the first time in my life, I understood something perfectly. Family isn't blood. Family is who shows up. Family is who stays. And now, finally, we had one.